Excited when I hear it.
It's
now.
good music. It is. So here, you're going to see it go up on here. All right. So we're live to YouTube. So now I'm going to send us up to the NBC Facebook.
Okay.
I'll let you know. Hey everybody, if there's anyone who's joining us, just letting you know the Co-Parenting Confessions is going to start really soon. We're doing a special episode this week where we're going to take live Q&A. You can ask Alicia questions about your co-parenting situations. So if you would like to participate, comment below the live stream and we'll put your questions up on screen and we'll get to them if we can. We'll be starting in about 30 seconds. Well, let's make it a minute. And we are live to the NBC Facebook as well, so feel free to go to that and share it. And I'm going to come close the door. And
oh, but now I think it's okay. I have to go to it from my Alicia Price page. That's where I have to be. All right. Okay.
what's that? Your long fingernails?
Trying to type. I'm just saying, we got action. We're going live, people.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're just dealing with a fingernail issue that's slowing us down a little bit, but we'll be starting very shortly. Just want to remind anyone that you're welcome to share this live stream out too. So if you know someone who's struggling with any co-parenting issues, which if they're co-parenting, take it from me, they're struggling. So share and help them out. We'll be starting soon.
Yes. Good job, Gabe.
Done it a couple times. I don't usually get this announcery, but...
Okay, so I have posted to the Alicia Price page.
Okay.
I believe it's there. I don't see it.
And if people do want to participate, today only, you'll have to comment on the NBC Multicast live stream page. But next week, follow us on Co-Parenting Confessions page, because that's where we'll be.
Yes. And we are almost ready, because I am also going live on Instagram. Here we go. I'm ready.
All right. Are we getting ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay.
It's time. Co-Parenting Confessions. Hey. This is Co-Parenting Confessions, and I am your host, Alicia Price, and I am so excited for today's episode because you get me. Only me and all of my expertise. So we have some questions where we've had our wonderful audience write in about things that they're actually experiencing in their own co-parenting family and or situation. And then we're going to go through these questions. We're going to talk about it. We're going to see what we think. And we want you to engage with the show today. So the other thing I want to share really fast, if you don't already know this, is that I'm a co-parent. Not only am I the president, I'm a client. So the thing here is that you're going to get some expert advice, but you're also going to get my honest opinion and probably some humor in the midst of that, because that's what we want to have happen during Co-Parenting Confessions. It is so important to make light of some of the things that we're going through because, come on, we're not going to always get it right. And some of the stuff that we go through as co-parents, honestly, is a bit crazy. So today we're going to answer some questions, and my producer, Gabe, is going to put them up on the screen, and we're just going to move through. So if you have a question, please feel free to write it below. If you have a comment about something that I shared, chime in. I don't care. I don't mind. Let's have this confessions time together. All right? We're ready. Let's do it. So, question number 1, and I thank you guys so much for participating. I put up a post yesterday and I just said I was going to go live today and I was going to answer any questions that you guys had. And I thought I was going to get this flood of questions under the post that I put up on Facebook, but not so much. Instead, I got the flood in my inbox, which is absolutely okay. So I will not be sharing the names of people, and I wanted people to know that their questions were confidential, but that we are going to dive in. So where are we at with our question, Gabe?
See, I'm sending the first one through right here.
All right.
I think this is the first one. I'm a single mom struggling with co-parenting. How can I navigate the dating scene while ensuring my focus is on my child? Any tips on balancing my personal life and parenting responsibilities? I feel guilty when I try to do things for me.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. Okay, so balancing dating, number 1, you should be doing things for yourself, right? And you should not feel guilty about that. But I understand as a mother that there are times that you do feel a bit guilty when you want to have fun. You feel like you should be prioritizing for your child. And part of that guilt comes from the other parent not being present, or you feeling as if you need to, give all this time to fill the gap or fill the void of the other parents and them not being in the household, or maybe not even being present. So I want to make sure that people understand that you need to still take time for yourself. So if dating is something that you feel is going to help you to improve, to be better, and to show up better in your household or show up better around your children, then by all means, do it. Do not feel guilty about taking time for yourself. Now, the other part of the question that I want to mention was it's hard to navigate the dating scene while still focusing on your child. Okay. You should not be trying to focus on your child when you're dating. Okay? You just shouldn't. There's a bug in my way here. You should not be focusing on your child while you're dating. You got to separate the two, right? So if you haven't introduced that person to your child yet, it's okay to have a separate life and do things for yourself. There's a time and a place for everything. So make sure that you're taking time for yourself. And if this is a question that you are genuinely concerned about, then it means that you should actually be exploring dating. Most co-parents or single parents who have questions about dating are interested in dating. They want to get out there. They want to be having relationship with someone else and not only be focused on their role as a parent. So be sure to do what you need to do for you, and do not feel guilty. A number 1 way to kind of venture into this space is to start doing things for yourself solo, so that you get used to being outside of the house. You get used to spending time with yourself and spending money on yourself, so that when you do introduce this dating concept, that it's not like, oh, all of a sudden, my mom or my dad is dating, and so now they don't have time for me, or so now they're away from the house because of this other person. So start to do some pre-work and spend some time focusing on you and focusing a little bit less on your child, if that makes sense.
Do you see any men struggle with this? Is this exclusively women?
I know, I do hear some men struggle with what it looks like to date. And for men, I think it has to do with the number of children that they have sometimes. But when there are single fathers with just one child, they struggle a little bit, and not wanting their child to feel like mom is being replaced. It's big for men who have daughters.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And as we learned from Jasir's episode, by the way, that was mind-blowing to me. Yeah,
it's big for men who are raising daughters, where they are really concerned about what their daughters will think about their dating, who they're dating, how often that person comes around. in protecting their daughter's space. So, but it's just important to remember that you're a human being, and being a parent does not mean that you turn off the desires that you have, the feelings that you have, and if you do, later you'll feel resentment. So don't do that.
All right, next question.
All right.
All right. I don't like my ex's new girlfriend. She's tried to be too involved when it comes to us co-parenting. How can I establish a healthy relationship with him when she's always putting herself in our family matters? He told me she's threatened by our friendship, and she is probably insecure. How is that my problem?
Listen.
I'm feeling this one.
Listen, it is not your problem. So I'm multitasking over here, and I want to say hello to Davina and hello to Mike and hello to Eric. Thank you for tuning in on my Instagram. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at Co-Parenting Confessions. Thank you. Okay, now, it is not your problem. Let me start at the end of this question and say that however Dad's new girlfriend is feeling is absolutely not your problem. It is not your thing to navigate. Do not worry about it, right? That person is not entering into your family situation by your invite, so it is not your job to navigate their emotions and their feelings. It is the person who invited them into the situation. It is their job. Now, I will say a girlfriend in a lot of roles, in my personal opinion, now I'm taking the expert hat off. This is a personal opinion. I don't think a girlfriend, especially if she hasn't been there for years, if she's not living in the home, if she's not helping out with the child, I don't believe that the girlfriend has a right to be making decisions around your co-parenting. Fathers need to make sure that they're really clear about what they want to see happen in their co-parenting relationship and or what they want to see happen around navigating the discipline and the structure and all of those stability factors for their children. So take the lead, dads. Do not let your parenting style defer to what your girlfriend has going on. In my personal opinion, I will share that early on with co-parenting, with my son's father, he had a girlfriend who I don't know whether or not she had a good relationship with her co-parent or didn't, but all I know is I could tell that whatever their dynamic was, it did not align with what my son's father and I were doing. It was not aligned. And I think that her preference would have been, however they were operating, should be how we operate. And I think that's a huge miss for people. Do not go into situations expecting someone to do co-parenting the way you do it. It is different for everyone. Every family should choose what works for them and what works for their children. So dads, step up, take this leadership role that many of us want you to take, and determine what co-parenting is going to look like, and do not defer to your girlfriend. Now, when we have long-term girlfriend who's been in the house, who's helping, and she has an opinion about things, and she's been playing a parenting role, it is not okay to act as if she doesn't have an opinion. So both and. You have to be thinking about what your current situation is and, respecting everyone that's a part of the family dynamic. So if there's a mother who's like, yeah, I don't want your girlfriend, commenting, and I feel like she's, got her nose in our co-parenting situation, but you're letting the girlfriend pick your kids up from school, and you know that the girlfriend feeds your kids dinner every night, and the kids are with the girlfriend primarily while dad is out hanging or working or whatever, then it's not okay to act like she doesn't have a say-so or she's not a part of the village. So be real clear about, the expectations. And I feel like dads shouldn't be scared to step up and also provide some of that clarity. Yeah, very important.
Easy for you to say.
But the other part is, so I love that in this question that where this person is saying, like, I feel like the girlfriend is threatened by our friendship and or she's probably insecure.
Yeah.
So who wouldn't be? Who wouldn't be threatened? Who wouldn't feel a bit insecure by a relationship that existed before theirs, right? That they don't necessarily know everything about. They want to understand, what your dynamic is now, right? And you have to be respectful of your new partner and what, they're looking to see happen in the relationship, and have those conversations. Don't do something and then ask for forgiveness later. I like to say, it's important to have these conversations up front, like it's insurance almost. In case some shit happens, you need to know how you're going to respond to it. So you should be saying, hey, if I talk with my co-parent regularly, how would you feel about that? If I go over to my co-parent's house for dinner, is that appropriate? Is it not? Ask some of these questions instead of letting situations happen and then you have to ask for forgiveness later, or you get chewed out about what's going on. The other thing I will say about the insecurity piece is I'm not huge on feeling unconfident because of somebody else and how they feel or what's going on with them. I'm real in tune with what's happening with me. Some would say that's a little bit selfish sometimes, but it works for me. Get in tune with what works for you. Do not be focused on somebody else. And that's for girlfriend, that's for the new boyfriend. Listen, if you got the person now, be good with that. Work on what you have, be proud of what you have, and don't worry about what didn't work with the co-parent. There's no need to be dealing with that. It's a waste of time. So.
All right, ready for the next one?
Yep.
I'm going through a divorce, and I'm hesitant to discuss my family situation with my employer for fear of judgment or repercussions. Oh. How can I approach this conversation professionally and ensure that my work performance isn't impacted by my personal struggles as a single mother?
I love this question, and I love the intentionality behind this, because a lot of times people assume that life is supposed to just go on. And when you are dealing with a divorce or a breakup, you're separating, your house is in flux, you're trying to figure out how to parent between households, it is really hard to focus on a job. It is really hard to be at work and be productive. And if you've ever gone through a space where you needed to schedule a doctor's appointment and you were at work, and you're getting, constantly interrupted, or you need to, leave work to do something very simple like, I don't know, go renew your license or something, right? That takes time. And those are the types of things that have to keep happening when you're going through a divorce. You're changing your whole life, right? So your address may be changing. You may be needing to update documents. You may be needing to constantly communicate with an attorney or a financial advisor. So they're asking for your financial information. A lot of those things happen during business hours. And so we try to manage those things without telling people what's happening or without alerting people. And the energy is all up in through your workplace. You show up like, you're going through stuff. And if you get ahead of it by talking to someone within your workplace about what you're experiencing, there may be some support available to you. So going to your human resources, tapping into your employee assistance program. Many people have employee assistance programs available to them through their employer, and they don't even know it. So look on the back of your medical card and look for something that says EAP. Sometimes there's free counseling available. There may be an opportunity to have a free consultation with an attorney if you need one. So don't be afraid to share what you're going through, but be cautious about telling all of the gory details. Right? Because the last thing you want to do is be at work talking about, I'm going through a divorce because either I cheated or the person cheated, or they have a drug problem, or they're a habitual liar. Whatever is the reason that you're getting divorced or that you're separating, you don't need to share the details. All you have to do is say that I have a family matter, right? I have a family matter that's happening, that's urgent, that is going to take some time. And make sure that you're clear about that and communicate along the way so that you have support. It is very important to do that so that your job is not in jeopardy. Also, let me just say this as a tip. People oftentimes are ashamed about going through a divorce or separation and all of what that entails. But when I tell you that at the end of all that shit, you have built up a different type of skill set, you have a new grit, a new tenacity, a new way of navigating and organizing, a new way of effectively communicating in a more professional way if you get that down and how you communicate with your co-parent. So recognize that what you're going through will later be skills and tools that you could actually use in the workplace. They're transferable skills. So there's a way to look at the glass half full and understand that what you're experiencing could later be a gift to you. So
So are you saying officially, it's your official advice
Yeah.
that people do disclose it at work?
I think so.
Okay.
If it's a safe environment, like wherever you have dealings on a daily basis and you feel like it's a safe environment, they should know what's happening with you so people can actually show up for you and support you. A lot of times people are ashamed and they keep it to themselves and they assume that there is no support or that no one is going through what they're going through. And that's not true. It's not true. So share, but with reason
Yes.
is what I'm saying.
That's like my feeling is the overshare is like
The overshare
is so
terrible.
common.
It's
And people
terrible.
think that they're getting credit saying how messy their spouse is.
Yep.
And it's like, it's making you sound terrible.
It does.
And
It
I might
does.
have fallen a little bit into that at a certain point.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No,
So
I
do
feel
not
it.
overshare, because the very thing that you talk about in the moment that you feel really pissed and, triggered, someone is going to bring it back up to you at a time that you don't want to talk about it. So
Yes.
remember that if whatever you say, you don't want somebody to say it back to you one day, then don't. It's a very good way to think of it. Like, would I want this person to repeat this to me later? No. So do not overshare, especially for those of you who are unsure of if you're really going to follow through, because that happens a lot too. You overshare,
Yes.
and now people are judging you because you came in and said how much you hate this person. And then 2 months from now, you show up with them at the company picnic. So don't do that.
That is so real, by the way. Yeah, absolutely. Well, here is the next one.
All right.
And so this is from a man. I feel overwhelmed trying to co-parent effectively while dealing with the alienation tactics of my ex-partner. How can I maintain my mental well-being and stay resilient in the face of obstacles that prevent me from being actively involved in my children's lives?
Alienation is so real. And kudos to Dad for recognizing it. And there is a such thing as called malicious parenting. And a lot of times people don't know the terminology or don't know what to say. And when you are experiencing alienation, the first thing that you do is you get really upset, and your behavior sometimes will overshadow what is actually happening to you. So it's important to be really clear about what's happening for you, get the right terminology, know that this person is parenting with more of a malicious style. Alienation is a great word to use instead of, she just won't let me see my kids, right? Like, you get so caught up in the emotion sometimes that you're not communicating it well. And so when you're in these spaces, say for instance, court or mediation, or you're talking with a guardian ad litem, it's really important to be clear about what is happening and using the right terminology so that you get the right type of support and you're able to clearly articulate what's happening for you. It's sad that alienation is real. And a lot of times that mothers, what I see in the work that I do, when alienation is happening, a large part of the time it is because the father is in a new relationship. Also want to highlight that some men may view their children not being able to see them or come around them as alienation, but they're not recognizing some of the abusive things that maybe that they did that makes mom not feel comfortable. So that's another piece of it. So I want to always lift that up too, that some of these questions we get, we don't know the backstory, and, some of them could be really, really packed. And there are dads that maybe have been emotionally, physically, financially abusive, and mom got away and doesn't know how to bring the kids around. And so dad feels like she's alienating him, right? So that is also a way to feel that happening. But in the case that abuse is not involved and someone is just scorned and is really, operating with malicious intent, this is a hard place to be in. I would advise anyone who's going through something like this to absolutely consult with an attorney around parenting time. I am not an attorney, so please know I am not giving legal advice. But if you are really concerned about not seeing your child or children, definitely consult with someone who can help you with getting the parenting time that you deserve, because you deserve to see your children. Did I miss anything in that question?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like that was really thorough. I feel like it's always so hard to tell to me, like those microaggressions, like kind of not dropping off maybe at the right time or being late and stuff. And it's like, when do you make a thing about that, right?
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to shoot through a personal one right now. This is something this is coming right from me. Is it fair to say that a co-parent should always have the right to know where your child is, or is that overdoing it? So, like, if they go camping, it's like there's part of me that you want to go like, okay, well, where are you going camping? Yeah. And what day or what? But I don't know. But I'm not like that in my personal life, so it feels kind of weird.
Yeah, that's a good question, Gabe. I feel a couple of different ways about that. So, if the child is going camping with, a group, both parents should know. If the child is with their parent who has not exhibited any type of behavior around being unsafe,
right,
and you know that your child regularly goes places with their parent, to ask a bunch of detailed questions would insinuate that you don't trust them. And if they haven't given you a reason to not trust them with their children, then you know that it is more about you than it is about the safety of your kids. If you're always operating with, are my children going to be safe? It's a good way to think about those kinds of things. You're not going to know everywhere and every place that your child goes. I mean, you're not. It's unrealistic.
Right.
It is unrealistic. And, but, if you're going on a trip, you're going out of town, you're going on a cruise, that person should know, we're going on a trip, right? I don't think it's unfair to say, what state or what country. Lots of people have very detailed information in a parenting agreement around notifying each other of those types of things. So, it's about common sense. It's about respect. If your child is with their co-parent for the weekend at their house, should you know what friends' houses they're going to on Saturday and Sunday? I think no. I think you need to get over it. And my favorite thing, if you've been watching Co-Parenting Confessions, is to know, get you some business. Because you have too much time on your hands if you're worrying about those types of things. I would also say, people who care so much about where my child is, it's because a lot of times they care about who their child is around. Because what they're trying to get to the bottom of is there another person in your life? And are you going to have whoever you're dating or sleeping with or whatever around our child? Most of the time, that is what it boils down to. Very seldom, but it happens. I see parents that are really concerned about this because of abuse. So they may have heard of some abuse with another child from a previous relationship of that parent, or some of those types of things. But I don't see that as much as I see people just being really concerned about who the new person is in their co-parent's life.
Well, I got a new angle for you.
Yeah.
My concern is like if something happened and then people would go, he didn't even know where his kids were or something like that. Like a weird, it's a weird neuroticism. Totally trust her. She's, but yeah. So,
I mean, it's real. You know, and that's why I'm saying, like, it's about common sense. It's about respect, you know. So if you're going out of town, yes, that person should know. But, you know, to a friend's house, to a basketball game, you know, things like that, it's just, it's overkill. It's a lot. So,
yeah.
All
right. Well, here is the next one coming through.
All right.
So I have some homegirls who are overly nosy and consistently in my business when it comes to my baby dad and my co-parenting situation. How can I set boundaries with them and protect my privacy while still maintaining our friendship because they truly have my back when he doesn't?
Ooh, I love this. Okay, so I have a book, if you don't know this. It is called not Co-Parenting Confessions. This is the podcast. It is called It's Not Complicated, a self-help guide for mothers navigating the obstacles of co-parenting. I want this person who wrote this question to have my book, because we talk about our starting lineup in the book and how important it is to have, you know, your homegirls who have your back, who will always be there for you, and being really clear about who plays what role in your life. Now, there are times where you got some friends that might be a little bit in your business and they want to know what's going on, but that's only because you probably have already overshared. You've probably already told way too much of your business to them. And so they feel, you know, responsible for you in a sense. Like they want to protect you. They want to make sure that you're good. They don't like how he's maybe treated you before, or they recognize ways that, you know, you could be doing things differently or better. And so don't overshare, just like when we were talking about the workplace. But I think it's important too, when you're saying things like my homegirls have my back, especially when he doesn't, then there's another part of you that needs to be honest with them and saying, hey, you guys, I need some boundaries. I need you to respect that there are going to be some ups and downs, and I need you to not judge me. So hopefully your friends will respect what you're saying. They will hear you. And, you know, they don't want to hurt you. It sounds like they actually really want to be there for you. So don't overshare. Don't overshare. And it's okay sometimes to say, I need to vent or I need to share, but I don't want your feedback.
Yes.
And it is okay to say, I don't want you to say this to me next week. I don't want to talk about it, but I need to get it out. So teach people how to treat you. That is the best thing that I can say when it comes to your homegirls, because I know a lot of amazing women who are there for each other always. My girls, my keepers, shout out to all of them who have had my back through my ups and downs. And there are times, I'm sure, where we've all judged each other. People want to say, don't judge, you shouldn't judge. We all judge, especially around relationships. And it's important to just make sure you don't overshare, or that you share with the ones where you can share safely. And again, teach them how to treat you. So say, you know, hey, back up. Get out my business. And, you know, I mean, the real thing is here, too. Like, I will say this. I don't know how many times before I was done with my co-parent or any other relationship after that I went back and then broke up, and went back and then broke up. And it's a part of the process. So don't beat yourself up about that. And if you have friends that make you feel bad about you going through the motions of what it takes to rid yourself of a relationship, then with all due respect, fuck them. Because they're projecting something onto you that they're going to do next week. I don't know any women who have not gone through, you know, that feeling of like, I said I was going to be done with him, and now, girl, I'm back with him. And I'm sure men have gone through that too. I think it was, I don't know, our third episode, and we had the guys on the show, and we were talking about men still sleeping with their kids' moms, and do they do that, you know, to hold child support off and to do all of these different things. And they shared with me, which I wasn't thinking about, was that many of the guys are still trying to hold on to the relationship themselves. So if we know that that happens, in especially these relationships where you have this bond where you're parents, then you got to cut yourself some slack, and you got to have some friends and some people around you that can understand that and be real about it and be respectful. Because let's face it, if we look at the statistics, they're going through the same shit too.
I got to ask you this, because this brings up a question for me from the guy's side.
Yes.
Which is, as you were going through this, I'm like, I don't know one guy who's got issues with his guy friends, like, you know, like, so at
Being
first
in their
it was
business.
funny to me, but then now, like, I'm thinking, I'm like, do men utilize, because being a single parent, being
Yeah.
a co-parent is just, everything is harder. Everything, like, there's no front in here. Everything's harder. Going to the grocery store, man, you got one kid who wants to go, the other one wants to stay home. Like, everything is harder.
Yeah.
And do you feel like men utilize their village enough, or do they just use mom?
Oh, that's a good question. Now, Gabe, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if this is a cultural thing or not, but I think black men use their village.
Who is their village?
They mama.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. And white guys, same thing.
You know, I mean, it's like, and it's also a gripe for a lot of women that it's like, okay, you're supposed to have your children with you right now. Why does your mom have them?
Yeah.
Why did you drop them off to your mom? And I remember feeling, you know, sometimes when my son was small, where I would not necessarily feel like his grandmother was taking over because dad typically had him, but I would feel certain things like, you know, well, when you have him, why does your girlfriend have to be there? You have all this time because I have him majority of the time. So hang out with your girlfriend, but when you have him, why is she there? Like, those should be the 2-3 days that you take off from her.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way I was thinking about it, which is not rational. And you want, you know, your child to have that time, you know, with their parent. But if they're safe, this is, again, a thing where it's like you have to fight your battle. I mean, think about which battles you're trying to fight here. You're going to fight all of them? You got to pick and choose, you know?
Yeah.
But the village is important, though, right? So you don't want to make a person feel like they can't access their support. If it is hard for a father, you absolutely want him to call on somebody to get help, because you don't want your child to be neglected. You don't want, you know, him to feel so frustrated that he doesn't want to take on this role. So we have to pick our battles 100%.
Yeah, I also blame mom because of her enthusiasm for wanting to do it. Like I'm telling you, it's in moms. They like want to step in and do it. It's too easy to recline
you mean
on.
Grandma?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's real.
They dive in.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So here is the next one, and this is another dad one.
Oh, right on.
So here we go. So as a single dad trying to co-parent, I'm finding it hard to balance dating and parenting. How can I manage my time effectively to nurture new relationships while being there for my kids?
Oh, good. So see, we had a dad that was dating. I guess the same thing. You know, you have to still make sure that you're a human being. People think it's one or the other. Like, I can be a parent over here, and then I'm, you know, who I normally am over here. And part of the problem is when we try to isolate those things and we try to, you know, not find a sense of normalcy or some type of a routine and a pattern for being a human, then people get mad at us when you're trying to navigate all these different spaces. It's like, just be yourself. Don't try to do something that is going to be too hard to manage and to maintain later. So it's important to date and to have a social life. Let me say that, because a lot of times I think too, co-parents immediately go to dating, because part of it is, I want to move on. I want to show that I am still out here in these streets, you know, that I can still get somebody, because you might not want me or I don't want you, but watch, right? And let's just not even focus there so much as what it means to have a social life, what it means to get to know yourself again, and not focusing first on what it looks like to date somebody, because you will immediately perpetuate the same types of behaviors that you had in the previous relationship if you don't take some time for yourself. So shout out to a dad who is being mindful about dating, because lots of times men just think, why should I have to ask? Or why should I have to think about this? So that's good.
Would you tell the Jasir story that blew us away? Because I think a lot of men and women do this where they think they're being honorable by going I'm just going to focus on my kids. And I was doing that. So when I heard that story from Jasir, I was like, oh, I'm a moron. I was not thinking of this the right way. And I know multiple women doing it.
Yeah. So I heard his story a little bit differently, I think, than you did. But I know what you're talking about. So my son, if you guys aren't aware, is 21. We've had him on the show twice now. And the last time he was on the show, he shared that he didn't see affection between his father and I. Is that's the story you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay. So he shared that he didn't see a lot of affection between the two of us. He knew we were in a relationship. He knew we slept in the same bed. We shared a bedroom and we lived in the house together. And he knew that we had love for each other. But he's like, I didn't see you guys really hug or kiss. And, and that blew me away because, first of all, I'm just how is that even possible? But whatever. And for about a week or so, I was really I was trying to figure out how to process that because I felt like maybe I had robbed my son of an experience, and I was taking it personally and thinking that after having been in a relationship with his father, which was so many years ago, then has he seen anyone else show me any type of affection? And then I thought, gosh, this is terrible if my son hasn't seen a man show me love. And so I was taking it so, I went deep with it. I asked him, and later he said, no, of course, the relationship that I was in, he's like, I saw him hug you, I saw him kiss you, and, there was affection. So I was like, whew. But I think people hide the affection, to Gabe's point, because they're trying to protect their kids, or they don't bring people around their children. They don't show them that they're dating because they think in some way that they're protecting their children from, seeing multiple people, or, what does this mean against your other parent, or, just whatever the narratives are that they've made up in their head. And the harmful thing about that is that your children won't have the experience of seeing you engage with other people. They look at what we're doing as a model for how they will be later in life. And so to rob them of those experiences is actually not a good thing. Now, they don't need to have several of them, right? So every person that you date shouldn't be around your kids. You should have some kind of barometer or some kind of gauge around, is this person quality enough to be around my children on a regular basis, or how often am I going to bring this person around, and having some conversations with your kids when they're old enough to understand. But to hide relationships. We had I think it was episode 2, where Lillian mentioned, she was like, that's not your uncle. That is not Uncle David. Where women are like, oh, that's just my friend, or that's Uncle David, when you're actually dating him. You don't need to feel like you have to lie to your children. Just think about all of the stuff that they're seeing in the world, that they're seeing on social media. So be okay with communicating what's happening in your life. Ask them questions about how they feel. That's extremely important. You may even ask your kids, if I am dating someone, would you want to meet them? How would you feel if this person comes over for dinner? Right? Again, insurance, in case some shit happens, right? You don't have to be dating yet, but you can ask, right? If this were to happen, how would you feel? What would you want me to do? Instead of us just, feeling this pressure of having to navigate it all and figure it out ourselves, our kids will tell us what they need and what they want from us too. So involve them. So they don't hate the person when they come around.
And I got to give you your flowers on something, because you said in a previous episode something about checking in with your kids,
Yeah.
like, I mean, how they're doing. And that was something that, there is this unconscious kind of fear. It's like you don't want to know, in a sense,
Yep.
because you get so tired of hearing, when are you going to come back and dance with mom?
Oh,
or whatever, right?
yeah.
And I did it the other night, and it was so constructive, so healthy, and really I felt more connected to them afterwards,
I
which,
love it.
it really was great advice. So,
Yes.
so thank you for that.
They're people,
Yeah.
They
Pain in the
have-
ass people, but yes.
They have opinions.
Yes, they do.
I love it.
So here's the next one. So this is from a single mother, or co-parent.
Okay.
That's what we're saying now, right? We're saying
Yep.
co-parent. I used to enjoy fun family activities with my kids, but since becoming a single mother, finances have been tight. Everyone can relate to that.
Yep.
How can I create meaningful experiences for my children on a budget and help them understand the changes in our lifestyle without feeling deprived? This is huge.
That is huge. That's a very good question. Extremely thoughtful. So, a lot of times parents will have, will both have an income, right? And so children are involved in extracurricular activities. Maybe they're doing sports or they're in dance. They have all these things going on because you can pay for it. And then one of, those incomes are, no longer in the house, or whatever the case may be. And so life does change a little bit. And I think it's important, again, to talk with your kids, be clear about the transition that you're in, but also know that, again, when I talk about these skills that you've developed, this grit that you're gonna, come up with, this tenacity, it is time to get creative. There's no time when you're going through these kinds of transitions, or you're feeling like you're in this, the single parent space trying to co-parent, that woe is me, now my life is, changed so much that I can't do anything. And then you feel bad, so now your kids feel that. They don't have to feel it if you get creative with things. One thing that I used to do with my son, we would always go to happy hour. Now, everybody knows that there's a, literally, I'm trying to tell you.
I'm really liking this.
We
Okay,
would go to happy hour. He was like, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6. He knew what happy hour was. And it was so funny. I remember he'd be like, hey, Mom, can we go to happy hour? And people would be looking at me like, what the hell's going on with you? Yes, we can. Because guess what? You're going to get some $5 sliders. I get to get a $4 drink. And, we get to sit out on a patio. There's happy hour everywhere. You can try new places. You get to go out to dinner, right? It feels like you're going out to dinner.
I love this.
And you can do that with less than $20. And you give them the fun little menu, and you're like, okay, this time you get to choose from this menu. Next time we're going to go to this place. And I would actually do that with my son. And we tried out a lot of really cool places in the city. And in addition to us going to happy hour, we had journals where we would have, questions in these journals, and I would let him pick a question that we both would answer, and we would quietly write our answers in the journal, and then we would read our answers to each other. And they would ask questions like, have you ever been arrested? Stupid stuff in these journals, right? And of course, no, he hadn't been, but we'd say, if you were, what do you think you'd be arrested for? And so we, get into his imagination. And then it was an opportunity for me to share with him, like, no, I hadn't been arrested, but I was caught shoplifting when I was 18. And so I was able to tell him that fun story about his mom, and he learned something crazy about me that in other circumstances I would have probably never told him. And so he got to learn me in a new way. And we just had such a great time, and we would call them little adventures. And we'd always say, like, okay, what's our next adventure? We're going on an adventure. The other thing that we used to do, I don't know if they still do this, and if you guys like Perkins or don't like Perkins, and they are not paying me, they should be. But Perkins had, I think it was like Tuesdays, and kids would eat free. And they would do face painting, and they would do like balloon animals and all of this stuff. And so I found this out, and I told all my friends who had kids, and we would meet at Perkins on Tuesdays. and our kids would hang out with each other and they would eat for free and they would get their face painted and we would sit and we would talk shit. And it was a time for us to just kind of fellowship and be together. So if you think outside of the box a little bit, you get creative, you will have so much fun. It doesn't always have to be the most expensive camps, the most expensive, sporting teams and that sort of thing.
Build a fort. That's what I do every now and then. Just get out the blankets, let them build a fort. If you're participating.
Some of Jahsir's fondest memories is us taking the mattress off the bed, off the box spring, and dragging it into the living room.
Yes.
And laying on the mattress in the living room and watching movies and eating snacks. It was one of his most favorite things to do.
Even like your happy hour thing?
Yep.
On its face, that doesn't say, like, whatever. That sounded idyllic.
Yes.
And
so
yeah.
Cool.
Do you think a lot of co-parents struggle with tapping into their playful side? Because, that's really all you're doing is like, but you kind of get stressed. It's easy to forget that.
And it's so important to tap into that side so that you can move on. That's where the healing is. When you can start to, get outside of yourself. A lot of times we get so caught in how we're feeling and it's just this real internal thing. But anything that's worth doing has to be outside of you. It's bigger than you, right? This is bigger than just, my relationship didn't go how I wanted it to go. Because again, what is that? It's about you. So when you get outside of yourself and you start to think about, what do I really want? What's the end goal here? What is the outcome? I want my child to feel safe. I want my child to have stability. I want my child to have, wholesome life experiences and be well-rounded and not be filled with anxiety, but know how to communicate and express themselves. So then when you want those types of things, you can be outside of yourself and find those experiences. The other thing, let me say this. Do not be afraid to ask. When you're in this situation, sometimes you feel like you're stuck. But if you ask, just ask. I don't care what it is, where you are, just ask. You will be surprised how many people will offer you things or will help. I remember wanting Jahsir to do I think it was like an acting class or something at Children's Theater. And I would take him on Saturdays, and I was just like, it's kind of expensive, but I want him to have something to do. I was trying to build some little routine for us. And I just asked, like, is there a way that there's like a scholarship or a discount? And guess what? There was. So, don't feel like some of the things that feel so expensive are unattainable. Just ask.
And who's not connected to divorce or co-parenting, like who's not sympathetic to? That is a great one. And by the way, shout out to potential sponsors out there.
Okay.
We need like a group that does co-parenting meetups or activities or something like that. That would be great.
Yes.
All right, next question. My child's father refused to be involved from the moment I said I was pregnant. We wanted a DNA test, and without it, he didn't want to build a bond. We got the positive DNA test results. He pays child support, but he doesn't do much beyond what the court had ordered. No real bonding or real relationship. My question is it more damaging to move on without him in her life or to subject them both to supervised visitation? See, she's 17 months, and I want him to be a good father.
So this one is loaded, and I love this question because as a part of my organization, the Price Dynamic, we actually offer supervised visitation, so I understand intimately what that setting is like and what that experience can be. So I guess I want to say first, we can want him to be a good dad all we want. He has to want that. So sometimes we get caught up in the image or the idea that we have for that person, and we keep projecting it onto them. And so when they don't do things quite how we want them to, then we see it as a failure. We see it as, the comment of like, should I subject them to this, right? I hear in this whole question, I. And for a lot of co-parents, a lot of parents, we make these situations be so much more about ourselves than necessary. So if he's compliant with what the court has set up, that's great, right? There's one less worry there. If there is an opportunity to do supervised visitation, see that as a space where dad can build some skills and your child can start to know their father and, potentially build a bond, because it sounds like there is no bond here yet. And that's the part that mom seems to be feeling upset about, like wanting them to bond. So it shouldn't be a thought of like, should I subject them to supervised visitation? Supervised visitation, another term that we use for it, which probably will feel a little bit better for this mom, is parenting time. If this father has not done anything unsafe, there is no real reason to look at it as this punitive space. And most centers will not treat it that way. As a matter of fact, we don't at the Price Dynamic. If there's no reason for the father to be supervised around safety, then this is truly parenting time. And that space could be what you consider as monitored. So a supervised visitation monitor goes in and out of the room probably every 15 to 20 minutes to just check and make sure that everything is going well and provide any type of support that the parent might need. But it's a good way to give them the opportunity to test what it feels like to be a parent and to try some things out without being scrutinized by the parent who's primary, who typically will judge. And I guess to say also, wanting him to be a good father, who's to say what a good father is, right? He's got to get to the space where he recognizes for himself what it feels like to be a good father. And being in that supervised setting could help with that. Also, the child being 17 months, you got so much time. You got so much time. Like, it's okay. You get to, like, I started personal training recently, and my trainer says, get your shoulders out of your ears. And it's such a good reminder. And since this has happened for me, I recognize it for people just in general, like when they clam up and they're just, so it's like, get your shoulders out your ears, relax. It's okay. You have so much time. And at 17 months, this is a really good time for your amazing child who's doing really cool and cute things as they're learning right now to absolutely win dad over in that supervised setting. So I would say no worries, allow parenting time and see how it goes.
And then is it fair to say that most kids, like, you'd rather have a crappy dad than no dad? As far as like messing you up, or as a, I don't know.
That's a good question. And I think it's definitely situational, because sometimes crappy dads are really damaging. And, there are some people that will be like, I experienced that and it just would have been so much better if he wasn't around.
So are we saying, like, even if, like, I'm talking non-abusive, just kind of like disconnected and kind of like, like how a wife might look at it, or ex-wife.
Like distant.
Yeah, and go like, look, he's not engaging, he's you know what I mean? If you have really judgmental.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's such a good question, Gabe, because I feel like present is important, but it is not enough.
Yeah.
It is not enough. Like, when it comes down to it, a dad who's present but not really engaging is probably the dad who's like, I pay all the bills, right? I'm here. But no kid is going to grow up and say, my dad paid all the bills, and so he was fantastic. They're going to say, my dad worked so much, he never came to a basketball game. He never showed up at my school. My mom was the only one that was there, or my other friends and whatever. So what dad doesn't do is always going to be like this overarching kind of like sore spot. So I think it's important to remember that present is not enough, and to figure out how to engage. And even if it's not, daily, but, if it's a fishing trip, if dad really loves fishing, it may be great, to show your kids how to fish. Show them how to do the things that you're interested in, so that you find a way to build up, that engagement. But present is not enough.
When you're like at the price dynamic stuff,
Yep.
do you guys give, if a dad comes in like that who's just aloof, doesn't know how to connect, do you have some sort of like a list of questions, like a way to help them try to engage?
We do. So we don't necessarily have questions, but every person who is participating in parenting time has a monitor assigned to them. And so the monitor is there to just kind of observe what's happening. And so if there is a parent who's struggling, the monitor can step in and help with playing a game or kind of elicit some questions that helps the child share what they're interested in or what they like, or, to kind of break the ice a little bit. And prior to visitation starting, there's a little 15-minute kind of block where there's some coaching that can happen, or the opportunity for the parent to say, hey, I don't really know what to do during my visit today, or I'm nervous. I haven't seen my child in years. I don't know what to say. And so they can bounce those ideas off of their monitor and get some coaching. Yep.
All right. So let's see. Do we have time for some more? You still
I
good?
say we got time for one more, and
Okay.
we'll wrap it up.
Man or woman? You want to call it? We got a bunch, so you can just choose one or the other.
So you guys are going to get to hear, because since Gabe is saying this, and we're live, I really fuck with dads.
All right. Here we go. I mean, I like this one.
I love dads, and I feel like dads don't get enough credit. I'm not against my moms, because I intimately understand what you guys feel and what you're going through, but I feel like we don't hear from fathers enough, and we don't give them enough space to actually emote what's happening. So when we have dads that are writing in and they want their voice in the space, I'm here for it.
Yeah, that's awesome, because what you said is true.
Yep.
So he said, my ex has a new partner, and it's creating tension in our co-parenting dynamic. How can I navigate this situation respectfully and ensure that my children are not caught in the middle of any conflicts between us adults? Yes.
Again, the partner. This one is tough because, I shouldn't necessarily say it's because it's men it's tough, because women, can be pretty nasty when it comes to the relationship stuff. But when there's a man that's coming in and there's friction, more than likely it's because the man that is coming into the relationship is now trying to take over kind of this role as the leader in the household, the head of the household. And with that comes what they assume is the responsibility of being a parent. And so if you couldn't be the man in this house or of this house, I am now. And so this is how it's going to go, or how it's going to be. And sometimes women act very different, in order to protect their relationship. So I would say for the guy, if it is safe to reach out to that man and have a one-on-one conversation with him, I think that's a great starting place. Do not be above mediation. Many people do not know that you can get the support of a mediator for free. So look in your county. I know in our county here in Hennepin County, you can reach out for free mediation. There are lots of mediation agencies that also provide mediation services. So look into mediation. Do not feel like that is, a cowardly thing to do. It's about safety. It's about clarity. It's about leveling the playing field and defining your family before the courts do. So if something's going to go bad because you didn't have some structure, we don't want that, right? So if you can find a way to have structure, do that. Have a grown man conversation if you can. I don't know very many men that wouldn't be willing to sit down one-on-one when they feel that they're the head of that household, and to, get a mutual understanding. When men are looking to communicate through a woman, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say, as a woman, we think we know what you want to hear. We think we know how to communicate to you because we think we know you so good. So we may leave some things out, like I'm not going to tell him he said that because that's going to mean he's going to act this way or he's going to say this. We're like these mastermind navigating maniacs or something, right? Sometimes, like, we want to control everything and we want to, put the pieces where they fit for us. And sometimes as men, you just cannot rely on the woman in your life to navigate those things.
Yes.
You just can't. And so if you're looking to communicate through her, trust that there's a lot of things she's leaving out because she thinks she knows you so well. Or trust that there's a lot of extra words she's putting in there because she thinks she knows you so well. So sometimes you might need to alleviate, the middleman, the mom, and just have a grown man conversation. And if you cannot do that, I think mediation is important. And if it feels unsafe, there is another option of a monitored exchange. So if you're still able to get your children and there's no problem with you, having your children, but you're not able to pick up and drop off from their home because you don't want to be interacting with this person who's giving you, negativity, then engage an organization that can do exchange for you. So, Co-Parenting Confessions. I hope you guys enjoyed the show today, where I was able to give you some expert advice, some personal advice, some co-parenting stuff that I've been through, and also just want to share, please like and subscribe to Co-Parenting Confessions. Follow us on Facebook. And I mentioned my book today on the show, It's Not Complicated, a self-help guide for mothers navigating the obstacles of co-parenting. Find it anywhere that you purchase books, on Amazon. And then again, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank our sponsor. Oh my goodness, Promise Realty. I want to thank for sponsoring 8 full episodes of Co-Parenting Confessions. Like, huge.
Shout out to Kim.
Much love.
Yes.
Much love. And thank you guys for tuning in on Instagram, on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're everywhere. And so share, and we'll see you next time.